Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order.
Yeah, let's calm down a little bit.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming this evening. I'd like to remind everybody to please turn off your cell phones or silence them. Might be easier to do. Tonight's board meeting will be live streamed on YouTube, so good manners is appreciated. Trustees, remember to speak into the microphone, and those of you who will be having public comment also, please use the microphone. If audience members would like to address the board, there are public comment forms at the back table, and those can be handed up here to our fill-in, which is very weird to look over this evening. Thank you for being here. Public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Public comment is made for items that are not on the agenda. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes. Public comments for items on the agenda will be taken at the time that that item is spoken about. On that note, can we have the flag salute? Jim, would you mind leading us in the flag salute?
Right here. Oh, yeah. There we go. I think I still remember it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent, can we have the report out from closed session?
There is nothing to report.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval of the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, we can meet. Item C5, our student advisor report.
There we go. Okay. So I wanted to start off by saying something exciting that's happening tomorrow at the high school. We have one of our clubs days going on. And so clubs day is when most of the clubs Ukiah High offers will come into the quad during lunch, and we'll have booths to sell food and raise money for their club. And it's a really great way to also gain members for the club, because the freshmen don't all know about all the clubs that are offered there yet. And the food is also really delicious, so it's always a fun time. And the special thing about it is that we're all gathered together instead of everyone dispersing in various locations throughout campus or going off lunch. So I really think that's a great thing that we do. And then something exciting is senior Lucy Burris, who is part of the high school's Future Farmers of America, was elected to be a national FFA delegate, which means she'll be going to Indiana in October to vote for amendments at the national level as opposed to state or county, which is really, really exciting. Something that's on a lot of people's minds lately is homecoming, because we only have almost less than 3 weeks left until the Friday, which is the parade day. And so classes are busy every day at their warehouse preparing. Tonight, water polo girls and boys teams had their first league game, and they played the second hardest team in the league. But they did really well. Even if it was not ending in a win, they played really hard. And girls tennis has our first non-league match a week from today. Next Thursday at the high school, and so if you're interested, feel free to come by. And something on a bit more serious note, most of us are probably aware that a lockdown happened at the high school the other day, and though there was a lot of anxiety of the students surrounding it for, of course, valid reasons, I've heard from other students and friends that they felt that it was handled well by the teachers that they were in class with, which was good to hear, and so I wanted to share that. And to end on a more positive note, Environmental Club did a high school campus cleanup last Sunday. So hopefully if you visit the campus, you'll see it looking a little bit nicer than before, because we picked up a lot of garbage, and when we finished, it looked better than when we'd gotten there. And we plan those every couple of weekends. And another exciting thing that Environmental Club is doing is we're planning 2 weeks from now to replant the garden by the Sciences Building and to make the campus look nicer in that area. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Ava. Are there any public comment items not on the agenda, for items that are not on the agenda? Okay.
Although, Tyler, I do want to note that the board received a letter from Oak Manor staff regarding a staffing issue at Oak Manor, so I just wanted to acknowledge that letter was sent to the board.
Thank you. All right, item C7, donations. It was fun to review this earlier and see Gail Momper's donation. Gail Momper donated books to Ukiah Library in the amount of $250. Is there a motion to approve the donations for this month?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we are moving into item C8B, and we have a special guest here this evening, Jim Rathie.
Thank you. I drew a short straw. Okay. Oh, I get on Mr. Microphone. Thank you. Well, I want to let folks know that UTA has finished up our survey. We always do a bargaining survey before we go into bargaining this fall, and that's completed. So we're ready to hit the table. And at this point, we think we're not opening any new items than what we've opened in the past, which is wages and compensation. At this point, that's news that way. What I do want to say on behalf of UTA is we really appreciate the service this lady has given to the district here. And seeing this person sat across the table from her and has served on committees with her, she will be greatly missed. And thank you, Penny. Yeah, UTA appreciates it for all the hard work you've done in labor management work. Thanks. That's it for UTA.
Thank you, Jim. All right. Item D1, public hearing, announcement of the Board of Trustees appointment to the Personnel Commission. Kathy James.
President,
No, yeah, Tyler. My name is Tyler. Oh, thank you.
Great.
Public hearing is now open.
Great. So our district appointment, our Board of Trustees appointment recommendation to the board is Kathy James. Kathy has served on, sorry, my mic was off and Jason was giving me the signal back there. Kathy has served the Personnel Commission for the last 4 years, I think, something like that.
6.
Has it been longer?
6.
Time goes by very quickly when you're having fun. So the board is recommending that we appoint Kathy to the Personnel Commission again with much gratitude for all of the good work that you do.
Do we take action at this
Yes.
at the public hearing or
We
after it's
close the
closed?
public hearing.
The public hearing is now closed.
Can I make a motion? Yeah, I would like to nominate Kathy James for this position. She's done a great job.
I'd like to second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions?
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
We are on to item D2, 2018-19.
Nelson, are we going to have our leadership report?
You skipped.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I really kind of went off the rails. Mr. Osland.
And Principal Osland, before you get started, I just wanted to express our gratitude to you and the staff for everything that you did last week during the lockdown. I'm really grateful for the way that the staff handled things and the obvious safety and comfort they gave to kids during a time like that. So thank you.
Thank you. Unfortunate that we have to be acknowledged in that way. Hopefully we as a society work beyond that and do what we can do. So for the leadership presentation piece, and I think that I'm the first principal to begin this with this year, and so I'll try to model the the directions that we received, which is less than 5 minutes and 3 slides, and talk a little bit about what we're doing as a leadership team, as well as Ukiah High School academic achievement and the campus culture. So the first part, as a leadership team, we've been working a lot with growth mindset and working with different groups, consultants, and in different formations as leadership teams. And I'd probably highlight 3. The first one up there is organizational transformation and working with Steve Zweibach. And as a district leadership team, we're just talking about how do you move an organization efficiently and with the least amount of sort of chaos and conflict toward transformation that better serves students and learning. And that is all about growth mindset. And that's pretty fascinating. I think each of these opportunities as a leader, what I would say is that it frees me up from leading at a school site and allows you to begin to explore things that you need time to think about. And so that's really what's happening with Steve Zweibach and the other administrators. The individual constraints and opportunities was something that we did really as a whole county. And that was truly about our personal individual constraints more so than our opportunities. And it was interesting to go through a study of your own constraints and then think about how you work beyond those constraints. And that does dovetail in with the whole organizational transformation. And finally, we'll be working this year professional learning communities. And if you hear it year in and year out, it's a heck of a lot like baseball. There's fundamentals, and you work on fundamentals always. And professional learning communities will be working with Tom Maney primarily, who is a nationally renowned consultant and we'll be working with other schools within the county and teachers as well, and working on professional learning communities and the skills and the attributes that make those successful. So that's what we're doing as a district leadership team. The academic achievement, many things are occurring, and I think Katie's going to talk about some of those things, but I would just comment on learning rounds, and you've perhaps heard about that before, but we're going as groups of teachers, usually 2 elders and 3 new teachers, and then our TOSAs and an administrator, and visiting classes, and each cycle would be an all-day event where you're in 9 classrooms in 3 periods, and then you have a debriefing, and then you have a planning time with the new teachers. A part of that is the instructional strategies that are listed there. We're also headed down to see Doug Fisher is the teacher and professor that really piloted this and really preaches the strategies you see up there. And we'll be seeing those in San Diego, but that's what we're also looking for in our classrooms. And we've attached looking at academic language as well, which is the work that we've started with Kate Kinsella, which is another district-wide initiative, but certainly a welcoming of Kate Kinsella back to the high school. And so that I would give high marks to as well. And finally, the positive culture. I'm super proud of our campus culture office. And if you ever really want to be inspired, go in there and find out what they're working on and the initiatives that they're working on right now, or Who's Your Person, which is really trying to identify every student should have an adult that they can go to. And that's that initiative. It does play wholly into PBIS. And at our school, that's integrity and compassion, productivity and creativity. StoryCorps is about collecting stories and recording stories of students about the types of values that we embrace. Common and social emotional health readings, working once a month within our Silent Sustained Reading Forum, where students are leading other students in a reading that has to do with social emotional health that they feel we need to address. And then ongoing our campus beautification, the mental health fair that they sponsored, and then a clothing swap. And so they identify these issues, and in the end, their mission at the bottom, as stated, is leveraging student, staff, and community resources to make the world a better place, not just Ukiah High School, but the world a better place. And I don't know of any other school that has an office like this and classes like this. I'm super proud of them. Mr. Dothett is running it in the absence of Beth Housen. And so swing on by if you ever want an introduction and have fun with those folks. And that is my report. Thank you very much for the opportunity to deliver the report and also to serve as principal at Ukiah High School. Questions?
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you.
How do we do on the time?
Okay, so we're going to fast forward back to D2. The 2018-19 unaudited actuals financial report.
Good evening. So I found a new picture, beautiful Mendocino Lake. I figured there's so many numbers everywhere else. I want to acknowledge once again, our fiscal department for the good work they do with our budget and all of our accounting. You'll see that once again, there was a very small variance between our estimated actuals and our actuals. And these are the things that we're going to go through, and I'll just go ahead and get right to it. As usual, I like to describe where we are in our budget cycle so that everyone feels comfortable understanding what numbers it is that we're talking about this evening. And as you can see, the three different colors in the cycle represent 3 different years. We're now looking back at last year, 2018-19, and every other report is regarding the budget, which always changes, but these are the actuals. This is what actually happened last year. The fiscal department spent the summer closing the books, and now we know the final numbers for the year. They'll be audited later, but for now, these are the numbers. Here's the combined general fund. Once again, the first column is the estimated actuals, which was the last report that you received when we adopted the budget for this year. We provided the estimated actuals for last year. So we're comparing the estimated actuals for last year to the actuals after the books are closed. And then the far column on the right is the variance. And as you can see, there was a very small difference from what we estimated in June to the final numbers. And what I like you to be aware of is the number in the box that we estimated to be unassigned. It actually rolls into this year's adopted budget and is incorporated into it. So it's not extra money, it's already being used in this year's budget. And then the all-important reserve, the percentages at the bottom of the page in the green is, as you're aware, our reserve is kept in Fund 17, separate from our general fund, so that we always have a clear picture of it. And we have our 9% there, and if you add that additional unassigned amount, it's another 1.5% for a total of 10.5%. So this is, we started with the combined. This is breaking out the unrestricted numbers, and again, the revenue, expenditure, other sources and uses. The difference is very, very minimal from what we estimated to the actual closing. So I remember it was probably 2 years ago, we had about a $50,000 variance, and this one is only $7,000.
So this is like a
yes.
record best.
Yeah, I want to post it on my CBO listserv.
It's going out with a bang, Penny. That's awesome.
Well, it's our fabulous accountants, truly. Components of ending fund balance. So this is a blowing up those bottom numbers so that you see what's involved in the ending balance. And just typically we have, our non-spendable, they call it, money, and that's our cash. And then we put a dollar amount in for what's in the inventory over at the warehouse. And then we have prepaid expenditures, things that got paid before the end of June that will actually occur in, after July 1st. We have to account for those like that. So, this also shows you the final assumptions. We ended the year with 5,598 ADA. Our unduplicated pupil percentage, almost 76.5%. The COLA was 3.7. And I went ahead and broke out the LCFF base, and the supplemental concentration grant funds are over $12 million now. And we are fully funded. There's no more gap percentage. We're fully funded for the LCFF, 100% now. So that, we saw the combined, we saw the unrestricted, and now this is the restricted side, because we have those two different sides of the budget within the general fund. That's our main operating fund for the district. And this number, I try to break it down so that you can see where this $6.1 million, what it's comprised of. And so if you look at the far right numbers, those are the different pots of money known as resources, and the ending fund balances that will carry over to next year, where we will spend them. And if you look at that very bottom row under the resources, the set of numbers on the far right, the 9010 is our other restricted local, and that's a big number, 3.9 million. So we're going to drill down to that next. And so here's the drill down to that. I know there's a lot here, but that basically is what comprises that almost $4 million. And I've noted the three column or rows in blue, which are the resources that the board's determined we need to fund on an ongoing basis in order to, operate the district. So we have the deferred maintenance and then the textbook adoption. You'll see there's a good sized number there. And then if you'll recall, that is to fund our 5 to 7 year textbook replacement plan. The other's little bit of safety vehicle equipment replacement funds left over, which will roll to this year so that we can fully expend them. So when we have the general fund, we always have revenues, expenses, and then there's that third section that is the other financing sources. And that's where we account for any money that gets transferred out of the general fund to other funds, or if money was transferred in, but in this case, it's all transferred out. And then it also shows us is where we account for the contribution to the restricted programs that don't fully fund themselves or have spent more than they received, is another way to look at it. They have to balance. So that means we would have to contribute money from the unrestricted side to the restricted side to make them balance. So you can see that the reserves, or the transfers out, there's a list there of what they're for. And so to make that 9%, we had to transfer a little over $500,000 at year end to make that 9%. And then the cafeteria fund had quite a substantial increase in food cost. Food costs have gone way up, and then plus when we have our salary increases, it's pretty impactful to them. So this is more than what we had originally estimated in the budget, but that's what it turned out to be. The adult ed fund, I think I've mentioned before that the adult education program that we're most familiar with fully funds itself. But there's a component in there for the adults in corrections, the students, and that funding for that is based on their ADA, and it lags actually by 2 years. Katie Aguilar and I were discussing today, it's a 2-year lag. So they've been working on that. They've getting some additional funding from the WIOA grant to build that up, but it did cost us a little bit because there were more students this year than the funding from 2 years ago provided for. And then on our pupil transportation, we spent a little bit, we received, we expended $298,000 for one of our new electric buses, and then there was just a little bit of funds that it didn't cover fully. So to do what we needed to do was a little bit of money. and then the contributions, which we will, since that's such a big number, we're going to go ahead and drill down to that. So this is what comprises the contribution from unrestricted to the restricted side, the 10.36 million. And you can see there the programs and the the routine restricted maintenance is a requirement, the 3% of the general fund expenses, but the special education is the doozy, the 6.03 million. And as I've said before, we have a very good special ed program. We just aren't funded properly for it. So you'll see there the facilities one-time funds are there. The textbook money that we move over each year, and so forth. So that brings us to the other funds. Now, everything we talked about so far has been our general fund, our main operating fund of the district. And then the district has other funds that are for distinct purposes and may only be used for those distinct purposes. And this is a list of those. So in the yellow, you'll see what we ended the year with. And then the very first row of numbers is what we're comparing the last time you saw the report, estimated actuals. But I always kind of like to just throw in last year's ending funds so you just get a little bit of a context of where it is, where it goes from year to year. And then I broke out for the building funds, the other funds of the district. This beginning fund balance is what we ended 18-19 with. And we have some scheduled projects in the budget based on the 5-year deferred maintenance and capital improvement plan. What the different colors indicate are that the Fund 21 and 22 actually roll together in the SACS reporting to the state report. So at the very bottom row, you see the SACS balance, and you'll see on the 25-26 is the developer fee fund and the community development funds. So that's where we were paying for the South Valley admin building, and then most of that balance is available for future use, perhaps for South Valley, which we'll be discussing at another board meeting. And then and those two roll together, the 25 and 26, but we keep them separate so that we can account for them easier, the different pots of money. And so I always like to talk about what's on the horizon and things that we need to be aware of financially. So this is probably, I've got a better picture, clearer picture of this little road sign here. But the bad news is there's the three main budget issues that every district is facing right now. It's not just us. Is our minimum wage to $15 an hour. And perhaps there's districts that aren't facing that one because they already have their salary schedule there. There are districts in wealthier areas, I would say. But the STRS and PERS pension costs continue to rise. The governor gave the pension funds some good funding and decreased the increase for us. However, it's still increased. And we don't get offsetting revenue to cover that, so we're absorbing that. And then again, the special ed expenses continue to rise, and yet the funding, and what you'll see is I have a slide for special ed where you'll see our funding's actually decreasing while the expenses are increasing. But the good news, we certainly have an accurate budget and time to plan for adjustments as needed. And that's kind of a broken record, but that's pretty much the state we've been in for a little while now. Minimum wage, I went ahead and updated this spreadsheet, if you will, describing it takes the salary schedule, just a little component of it, and then it shows you the color-coded effective dates of the incremental rise to the minimum wage. And as you'll see the little arrow that says okay, For this fiscal year, our entire salary schedule, thanks to the bargaining agreement that we achieved with CSEA, and thank you for that, we're good for this fiscal year. Next fiscal year, we'll have to continue to work on it. And here is a very busy, with lots of numbers and percentages slide that is important that we show, because this pretty much outlines historically the employer contribution rates, what the district has to pay towards both STRS and PERS. STRS is the left set of percentages, PERS is the right. I borrowed these, and the one on the right doesn't actually say PERS, but it's the PERS numbers. The unrestricted general fund, just year over year, I just basically took from the SACS report what our STRS and PERS costs were from the actuals to our budget, and it's like a $700,000 increase when you combine those two. So we've had these consistent large increases, and I think it's very important to be aware that, as you can see from the STRS future, the rate and percentage change year over year continues to go up. So it'll top out at 18.1%. So over 18 cents for every dollar of salary is going to the STRS pension. And when you get to the PERS side, in the blue, it just has the historical numbers on the main spreadsheet there. But in the blue on the right, I put the PERS rates that are the future rates. And then in 21-22, merely 2 years from now, it's topping out at 24.6%. Almost 25 cents of every dollar of salary the district has to contribute to the PERS pensions. And we should have well-funded pensions. General fund, here's the special education. I went ahead and this is a follow-up. You saw this slide that ended at 17-18 last year, so I added the 18-19 column on the right with the yellow to kind of show that that's what we want to look at. But you can see the trend, and you can see here in the pink or red the revenue difference from the prior year. It's a decrease, and actually it would have been more, but if you see the federal revenue last year to this year, that actually went up a bit. So otherwise it probably would have been, I can't do the math in my head, but it would have been more. And then on the expenses, the expense difference from prior year is the 323. So overall, our contribution went up close to $700,000. Now, I put in our comment bubble, described that part of that is from our review with special ed. We realized that they did a multi-year projection for us that most SELPAs don't do, but we were burning through the SELPA reserve. And so now everyone's realized that, so thankfully we had the review, and this year we had the 8% reduction. And that was part of the reason the revenue decreased. So that's that. And again, it's not anything against the special ed program, which is really a robust program in our district. It's just that our funding is never adequate for it. And that brings us to a completely different topic, which is our facilities one-time funds. If you recall, we received some one-time money last year that was unspent. Therefore, it resides in our local 9525 resource on the restricted side. I'm going to recommend that when we funded the energy efficiency project and we did the financing for that this summer, it ends up that when they did the final purchase of the lease, I believe it's a purchase, the very first repayment begins in May of 2020, which we hadn't budgeted for. So since the project won't be substantially completed until next summer, we won't be realizing this year the savings yet that typically will make those payments for us, that difference. So I'm recommending that we use the amount of that first payment, the $135,875, to pay that first lease payment in May of 2020. And then when we start making the payments next year, it's 2 payments a year, we'll be realizing those guaranteed energy savings from our utility costs. So when we build that budget next year, and we just met about it today, Katie Aguilar, Christy Bryant, and myself, to get all of the calculations set so that we'll be able to identify those savings from the utility costs. So we'll identify those there, and then we'll have the debt payment in the budget, and they should not increase the budget, but it should be paying for it. So this is what I'm recommending for this year, though, so that we don't negatively impact our budget this year, because we haven't realized any savings yet because we haven't done the project. So do you have any questions about that? And when after that occurs, we'll still have $793,842 in the facilities one-time fund pot. So that would be the recommendation, and then we're all the way through. Next steps, the auditors come. The audit report will be presented either December, or if it misses the December board meeting cutoff, it'll be January. We'll be meeting with UTA regarding our fair share formula in October, per our MOU that we're used to. And then in December, your new CBO will be presenting your first interim budget report. So.
So Penny, just to clarify, when the board approves the unaudited actuals, will they also be approving the use of those one-time funds for the loan payment?
That's what I'd like, if we
Okay.
could do that, and then,
Could we do that in 2 separate motions to make it really clear?
Okay.
Absolutely.
I move acceptance of the unaudited actuals report.
second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right.
I didn't mean to do that too quickly. I mean, maybe somebody has a question.
I didn't see any pins. Do you want to make a second motion?
Now I'm all confused. Do I have a question? Sure. I'll make a motion that we allocate $135,875 from resource number 9525 for the first lease payment of our energy efficient project in May of 2020.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, Penny.
Thank you.
Item E1. Go for it.
So this is resolution number 7 for 2019-20, for Week of the School Administrator, October 13th through the 19th, 2019. And I don't like to just read things, but this is a good resolution, and I'm going to read it. Whereas leadership matters for California's public education system and more than 6 million students it serves, whereas the title school administrator is a broad term used to define many education leadership posts: superintendents, assistant superintendents, principals, assistant principals, special education and adult education leaders, curriculum and assessment leaders, school business officials, classified educational leaders, and other school district employees are considered administrators, and whereas providing quality service for student success is paramount for the profession, and whereas most school administrators began their careers as teachers, the average administrator has served in public education for more than a decade. Most of California's superintendents have served in education for more than 20 years. Such experience is beneficial in their work to effectively and efficiently lead public education and improve student achievement. And whereas public schools operate with lean management systems, across the nation, public schools employ fewer managers and supervisors than most public and private sector industries, including transportation, food service, manufacturing, utilities, construction, publishing, and public administration. And whereas school leaders depend on a network of support from school communities, fellow administrators, teachers, parents, students, businesses, community members, board trustees, colleges and universities, community and faith-based organizations, elected officials, and district and county staff and resources to promote ongoing student achievement and school success. And whereas research shows great schools are led by great principals and great districts are led by great superintendents, these site leaders are supported by extensive administrative networks throughout the state. And whereas the state of California has declared the second full week of October as Week of the School Administrator in Education Code 44015.1, and whereas the future of California's public education system depends on the quality of its leadership, now therefore be it resolved by the Ukiah Unified Board of Education that the week of October 13th through 19th be proclaimed the Week of the School Administrator in honor of the many outstanding contributions and services provided by the administrative team for Ukiah Unified. We recommend your approval.
Thank you.
I move approval of the Week of the School Administrator.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you, school
Aye.
administrators.
Opposed? The motion carries, and thank you to the administrators here at Ukiah Unified, but anybody that's watching around the world, we also thank the administrators for schools around the world.
Right.
We are on item F1. Katie.
Good evening, Superintendent Cuban and the board. Tonight, I'm here to share our preliminary Smarter Balanced Assessment results. We will be coming back to you in October with more detailed results by subgroup that are just not available yet. So we wanted to get you some information, and hopefully when we get back, maybe some of your questions that you have will also be answered in October. Overall, right now, this is the 18-19 results from the English Language Arts Assessment, the Smarter Balanced Assessment. And you can see that in English Language Arts, we have an upward trend as we go across the grade levels to grade 11. And if we look at mathematics, we sort of have the opposite trend. It's higher in third grade, and you can see we kind of flatten out as we go across the grades, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. That's just a trend that is across the state as well when you look at the state assessments. So how are we doing in English Language Arts? This chart shows the change over 3 years, and also allows us to look at cohorts. And if we look, we're making steady gains, especially in our grades 3, 4, and 5. And you can see that we've had positive change in both over the year and over 3 years, and that's really great to see. I was looking at some of my data from prior. We started out with only 20% of our students in grade 3, and now we're up to 34. So we're happy to see that progress. We know we have a long way to go, but it's good to see that we have some improvements in the lower grades and in middle school as well. But we have some other areas to work on. So when we look at the grades over time, over the last 3 years, we can see that we've had steady increase in grade 3, and that is one of our major metrics, and in grade 5. Grade 8, we're flat, and then right now at grade 11, we're down. We're up from when we look at the year prior to that, we're up a couple percentage points, but we're kind of looking at that breakdown right now. And we're looking at subgroups, but we don't have all the data back on that. We have some schools that are doing great work with our third grade students, all of our schools, but you can see some great improvements. And some things we wanted to highlight, you can see Calpella has made steady growth. And Oak Manor, third grade, did an amazing job last year. And you can see they've had steady growth over the last 3 years. And Nokomis, this year, or this last year, where we were piloting the 95% group, and they started to do, which is a reading intervention program, and more professional development with their third grade teachers last year, and we can see an improvement there. So we're really excited to see the results and the learning that students are going to do this year too. So that's an exciting piece to look at. Grade 4, again, if we look at the district overall, we've improved over the last 3 years, and from the prior year, we improved 10 percentage points. And that means that we have 10% more of our students that are standard met or above in fourth grade. And you can see we had improvements at schools across the district. And so that's really exciting. And we do want to highlight, looking at Frank Zeke right now, they had really good improvement, and you will have this spreadsheet shared at the next data presentation, but they had improvement over time and in their cohort data. So, and they had a concerted effort. It was their second year in the CAPS grant, the Professional Learning Communities grant, and they did a lot of work at that site around professional learning communities. So we can really see that, and we're excited to see that for Frank Zeke and the other sites. Fifth grade, we've had improvement, not as much from the prior year, but over the last 3 years. And one school we wanted to highlight was Ukiah. They've done a lot of work on curriculum implementation. Their coach worked really hard with their school sites. And also you can see Nokomis too. So it's excited to see a lot of our schools improving. But I asked the Ukiah principal, what do you think made some of the difference? And she said, we worked really hard. My coach was in there working with those teachers on curriculum. So that's exciting to see. At the middle school level, grade 6, you can see we improved from the prior year and the 3 years prior as well. The elementary schools, I just want to caution, when you look at the elementary schools, some of those groups are small. We do present them by school, but when we look at Frank Zeke, that's like a half of a class. Sometimes it's a full class, sometimes it's a half, but just to put that in perspective compared to Pomalita that has about 200 sixth grade students. So just be thinking about that as you look at that data. And you can see we had some really great improvement at Eagle Peak and Pomalita. And when we look at, next time we meet, we'll look at more cohort data as well. Pomalita did some really good work with 6th and 7th grade and pulling those cohorts up as well. So we were excited to see that. And it just doesn't show on here, but we'll show it next time when we have some other additional data. And then you can see we're a little flat at 7th grade. We had some improvement at Eagle Peak. Those teachers are working hard on, we were in our first year last year of Study Sync, the new curriculum. So we're excited to see the next year's or this year's results coming up. So that's something they're working on. And again, a little bit flat with grade 8. But when we look at the cohort data, and we'll share that next time, we have some good improvement. And then 11th grade, this is an area where we're trying to dig a little bit deeper and see, because we did see some declines. You can see that at South Valley, at the high school, and at UISA as well. When we look in general over time, we are still up from where we started, but we're kind of trying to dig into the data right now, and when we get our final subgroup data, that's what we want to look at, but that's not finalized yet. So we're still looking at that data to try to understand what's going on there. So some of our key findings, approximately 35% of our students in grades 3 through 8 have met standard or above. And we want that obviously to be a lot higher, but that's where we're at. We can see that as a whole. 11th grade has declined, and we're trying to look at what's happening at all of our sites across the district. We've got sustained improvement across grades 3 through 5 in both year-to-year and cohort data, and we'll share more of that the next time. So that's, we've put a lot of effort in there, so we're excited to see that. And then we've had significant improvement of ELA standard met or not met at most elementary schools in those 3, 4, and 5, including Nokomis. So that's really exciting. So what are some of the things that we're doing? We're continuing to work on our Tier 1, our core instruction. All of our new teachers that came, except for ones that came, right at the last minute, but the majority of our new teachers participated in the New Teacher Institute, where we provided trainings in curriculum, instruction, professional learning communities, and then also we had other trainings like Benchmark Advanced, our English Language Arts curriculum training. So we're continuing to try to build that base. We also, the 95% group, we trained our K-1 teachers in June and in August, and they'll be having ongoing coaching. They'll have release time to meet to discuss the data that they get from the intervention. And we're continuing our ELA summer unit planning. And this summer, the teachers in grade 9 through 12 did a more intensive unit planning process that will bring more information back to you around core novels and the textbook that we have. And we also think that's going to help those teachers collaborating together and getting real clear on their instruction and content. We're continuing the Read 180 intervention. And then the other thing that we're really hoping and we think will help our students out in terms of academics is we have Dr. Kate Kinsella working with our secondary in grades 6 through 12. And we're focusing on academic interactions. So our 3 core instructional practices are close reading, collaborative conversations, and evidence-based writing. We want to change our strategy's name to academic interactions because we feel like collaborative conversations doesn't really express what we mean by that. And so we're really excited. Dr. Kate Kinsella has already shared lots of resources with our teachers. She's one of those amazing trainers that models everything as you're doing it, so you feel like, oh, I could do that. I've seen it, and she gives you the tools. She presented in August to our secondary schools, and she'll be presenting in November, on November 1st, and then we're still figuring out how to get Pomalita a day with her as well. We're working on that because they'll be doing some other training that day. And she will also be coming to 2 more of our secondary leadership network trainings. So those are some of the things that we're responding to, and we're really excited about the work that we're doing. And then I didn't, looking at this as a district level, all the sites have been, through Leadership Network, have already had their preliminary data. They've met with their school teams. And they've come up with their site plans for the year and made adjustments based on their data as well. So there's other things happening at the school level that are not in here. So mathematics is our next area. You can see here we've had some positive growth in our grades 3, 4, 5. But we're struggling still at the middle school and secondary level. We're just pretty much flat right now. We'll talk about some of the things that we're working on for that. You can see that 3rd grade, over time, they're improving about 4 percentage points every year in the number of students that are standard met or above. And 4th grade, we had a 5% increase over the last year. 5th, although, you know, we're at 20%, at one point we were at 11% the prior year. That's not on there, so we're making gains. It's slow. And then you can kind of see we're flattening out. And so that's an area that we'll talk a little bit more about that we're working on. So third grade, you can see some sites that are really improving steadily across Calpella and Ukiah. Ukiah did some of the unit planning work with us, and again, the coach worked closely with them. And Oak Manor third grade, they were working hard because they really had some amazing improvement of 21% increase in the number of students standard met or above. Grade 4, we had an increase from the prior year, and some sites that, like Grace Hudson, have steady improvement. Nokomis, we were really excited. They've been working really hard on their math as well. The student success coordinator worked really closely with the, also on the intervention, but also with the 4th and 5th grade. And there were some newer teachers in there as well. 5th grade, you can see we have that improvement there, but that 5th is another area that we're improving, but it's not where we want to be. And then you can see at Frank Zeke, we had some good scores in 6th grade, and we did have improvement, but it's slow going. So we've kind of flattened, and we're looking at that. And then you can see 7th grade. The Pomalita, that one year was very high district-wide for math, and then we saw a decline there. But we have some improvement at Eagle Peak, and I'll talk more about what we're doing in math as well. But you can see we're pretty flat in 8th. And then at the secondary level, again, we're a slight improvement, but we're pretty flat. So some of our key findings, approximately 20% of our students in grades 5 through 8 are standard met or above. Improvement in the percent of students that are standard met or above at 3rd through 4th. So you can see 3rd we've improved. 4 of our elementary sites had 40% or more of their 3rd grade students standard met or above. So we're really hoping to see that, change as we move across time. The one thing we do notice is that most cohorts decline or flatline in the percent of students standard met after 4th grade, 5th grade. And that is a state trend, but we look at that and we think part of the reason is, unlike English language arts where the standards are basically the same, they just kind of raise in complexity. You're always writing, reading expository text, and there's two types of nonfiction writing that you're doing, and you're just getting better at that. And math, if you're missing some major concepts, and then you're getting challenged with some newer concepts, I think that's why we see that in our district, and we see that trend statewide, because then you're not building off because you don't have the base. So that's something we're looking at. And then in grades 5 through 7, the cohort data improved. So that was another thing that we were, as we see our 3, 4 improving and 5, and then our cohort data improved across 5 through 7. They made some gains. So we feel like we're getting there. It's slow, but we're getting there, and we're seeing some of that improvement. So what are we doing? How have we responded? So we have created a course for teachers in grades 4 and 5 on the core concepts in mathematics and planning around bridges. A lot of those are much more complex concepts. And so we've started that. Jenny Bailey and Robin Gibbs and Melinda Higginbotham and Jackie Gaffield from Grace Hudson. They're all collaborating on this class. So that's been really exciting. Elementary Leadership Network this year is focused on PLCs through the eyes of mathematics. So we'll be using what we're learning from the CAPS grant and bringing it back around PLCs, but using the math curriculum and looking at math and talking about math. This June, we had Math Solutions come in. That's training from, and now her name is leaving me, Burns is her last name. Thank you, Marilyn Burns. Her company that provides math training, the County Office of Ed brought her through district assistance, and then we built off them coming here, and we were really excited. The training was great. We got feedback like, all teachers should do this. So we're trying to figure out how can we get more teachers participating in the training. It was in June after school. And the teachers middle school teachers I talked to said this was right in line with our curriculum and what we're learning about Common Core, and it was really helpful for them. So we'll be continuing that training in next June through our low performing block grant. And then we're piloting math curriculum at grades 6 through 8 with a program called Open Up Resources. We provided a lot of training for teachers in May and June through a company called Better Lesson that works with Open Up Resources. And it was our first time that we did virtual training. And the teachers really felt like it was good, it was worthwhile, and that doing it virtually. And the training was specific in how to use the curriculum. And then those teachers planned this summer, got together, looked at the curriculum more, worked on assessments, worked on identifying key standards in the curriculum. So that's what they did for math. We're piloting a math intervention at Pomalita through the CSI funds and some Title I funds, Math 180, which is like it's the same company as Read 180. We have a very tiny, small pilot right now with one teacher. And then some other exciting work that we're doing at the high school. The high school is participating in California Ed Partners Improvement Collaborative. And our team is all math teachers, and Gordon and I. And it's really an interesting collaborative that we come and we work with other districts throughout the state who have similar improvements around college readiness, and ours is focused on mathematics because we're trying to improve A through G. And from that collaborative, 2 things came out last year. The teachers created a targeted after-school contract, and so we're getting more students in after-school tutoring that need the tutoring. And the students can do retakes and get extra credit, and so they've been working on trying to get more students that really need to be there in the after-school tutoring. And then this year, Ukiah High was able to put a math support class in the school day for students that need more support. And so this is our first year piloting that. And we've already done some really interesting, today Gordon did a couple empathy interviews with students asking them about mathematics, and we've got some interesting perspectives from them, and so we're excited to see that class really support our students. So those are some of the things we're doing for math, and just any questions?
What were the interesting things that they said?
They were around how they felt about mathematics and times that they were successful and what helped them be successful. Some of them from, the teacher encouraging them and saying, you can do it, to just the structure of the homework or the classwork, how it was laid out and how it was coordinated. So those are some things. We've only interviewed a couple students, and we're interested. This is part of the collaborative, and that's why we were just doing that. So we're going to do probably more of that to get some more information. So that's what was really interesting to me.
Zoe?
I just wanted to say thank you. It's nice to see the growth, even though it's small, it's still growth. So thank you for all the hard work everyone's doing. It's really nice to see.
Well, thank everybody, teachers, paraprofessionals,
Absolutely,
principals, coaches, because they're working really hard.
It's nice to see.
So what I'm wondering is if maybe in South Valley, because the emphasis was on big picture, that had an effect on how they well or not so well they did?
I think that's part of that, and we're looking at,
Yeah.
how to support those students,
Right, but
because.
I mean, big picture's great.
Yeah.
So one once they combine it, I bet it'll work nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do think that that's
That was,
part
yeah.
of program implementation.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Thank you, you did a great job.
Thank you.
Those are all the pins I'm seeing. Thank you, Katie.
Okay, we'll be back in October.
Thanks.
All right, can we have a superintendent's report?
Yes, just a few things. One is, again, I'm super grateful for our staff, and a special thanks to Ian and Jason for always being here to help us with all of our tech needs. I'm just really excited about the work that's going on in our district with school is firmly up and running, and gratitude to everybody who makes that happen. So I'm happy to report that we have 113 participants this year in our California Principals Network. So this year, teachers are added in. We have 35 principals from Lake County, Mendocino County, and Sonoma County. So it's a big undertaking, and I'm really grateful to Deb Ornelas and Marta for helping be the backbone behind all the preparation for all those materials. So we're really lucky to have that, and it will, and we're thankful to the city of Ukiah for letting us use the conference center. So anyway, and you're welcome to come at any point and observe, and so I'll get you the dates. Other good news, 3 of our schools received awards, statewide recognition for the area, in the area of PBIS. Ukiah and Grace Hudson received gold medal awards, and Pomalita received a silver. So we'll be getting the word out on that, but we're really proud of the work that they've done over the years to get PBIS embedded in their schools. We had a visit from a Danish journalist last week, I think it was, who was doing research on California's climate change policies and found us. In his research, he's writing a book on climate change, and he wanted to learn more about our electric buses. So we had a visit from a Danish journalist and photographer coming through Ukiah on the way to Portland. So that's just kind of interesting that we're in the news for our sustainable practices, which is great. The other thing I was thinking about as Nicole was reading the resolution for the Week of the School Administrator, I'm very grateful for our administrators in our district. And on Tuesday, Katie and I had the pleasure of attending the Learning Policy Institute just published a study on positive outliers in California. So school districts whose students are outperforming other districts, Latino students and African American students outperforming other districts in California, and they released their study, and they had the districts there to present their work, and I will get a copy of that report to the board. One of the things they talked about was leadership longevity and teacher longevity, and how important it is to have leadership stability in a district, and I'm really grateful for that, and having stability from the board as well. They did talk about governance in a district as well as being a key factor to success. So we'll share that report out. The nice thing is we are using a lot of the same strategies as those districts, so that was super validating. They had San Diego Unified, Chula Vista Unified, Sanger Unified, Clovis, and Gridley Unified, presenting what strategies they're using in their districts to help their students perform better. And we are using a lot of the same strategies. One of the depressing parts was finding qualified teachers. Many of them are located near universities, and they actually, a lot of their staff teach in the teacher education programs, and they feed their districts with qualified teachers, and we, of course, are not located as near a university like some of those districts. So anyway, Katie and I were thinking about how do we deal with that. So anyway, it was a good presentation, and there's some good work in there, and we're looking forward to visiting a couple of those districts this fall. So that will be continued. We are in the process of finishing the design on our strategic plan work. Steve Zweiback will be facilitating a 2.5-day workshop for us. And our plan, and thank you to Megan and Tyler for having an initial discussion with us on that. One of our strategies, since we can't send everybody to visit other places, is to bring some external people into our process to help us think a little bit. And then finally, I'm so honored that Dr. Kate Kinsella is working in our district. She's been part of my career since I was a teacher, which was a long time ago, and we're really lucky that she lives very close to us. So some of the Ukiah High staff members were sharing with me that she was really involved in our district a long time ago, and they're also very excited to have her back working in our district. So lots of good stuff going on, and Katie, special thanks to you for all of your work on our data.
Thank you. Any board reports? Hallelujah. I mean, we'll save it for next time. Grape harvest is already killing me, so I appreciate all of you. Okay, on to item H1, student expulsions. Is there a motion to expel student AA 09122019 for the fall semester of 2019 and for the spring semester of 2019-20 school year?
I so move.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, is there and now the kind of the nice part, is there a motion to readmit student AA 0909-2019?
I'll make a motion to readmit the student.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Is there a motion to readmit student BB 0909-2019?
I'll move readmitting that student.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Is there a motion to readmit student CC 0909-2019?
I'll move.
Make a motion to remit that student.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Is there a motion to deny the readmission for student number DD 0909-2019?
I'll make a motion to deny that readmission.
I'll second.
Oh, excuse me one
My
second.
writing is very
The
bad.
family may reapply for readmission for spring of 2020. And the motion was made by
To
Megan.
deny the readmission.
And
I second it.
Carolyn seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions? And finally, is there a motion to readmit student EE 0909-2019?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions?
Nice job.
All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? And we are on to planning.
Nice work, Tyler. Marcia, did Deb talk about when we might be doing agenda planning?
Wednesday, October 2nd, okay.
Would anyone like to join us at that?
What's the date?
Wednesday, October 2nd at noon.
I can do it. I don't think I've done it in a while. Have I? Done it in a while?
just did it.
What about you, Carolyn?
I can do it.
Or B, have you done it in a while?
Well, maybe Jose,
Yeah, Jose, you want to?
can you do it?
It's kind of
Is that
fun.
too many? That's too many?
Well, how about Carolyn and Jose?
Okay. Can I do that?
It's fun.
Does that work? Yeah? Does
It's
that
fine,
work
yeah,
for you,
I'll do it
Jose?
next time.
I'll make it work.
That's a good idea.
So it's at noon.
October 2nd at noon then. All right. And it lasts for about an hour. Okay, and are there any items that board members are dying to add to the, to a future agenda?
I do have one, and I apologize, I probably should have mentioned this to you ahead of time, Superintendent Cuban, but I have this vague memory of the contract with UPD, approving it last year, and it was going to be brought back for some fixing.
That is on my list.
Okay,
My goal is to try and get that finished by December. There was just some cleanup language on
right.
that. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make
It
sure it
is
was on
still-
the radar.
It is
Okay.
on my radar.
Thanks.
That was easy. All right. Meeting's adjourned.